Wilkerson. You'll note that he's currently the Distinguished Visiting Professor of Government and Public Policy at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. He also was the Chief of Staff for Secretary of State Colin Powell. Okay, Colonel Wilkerson.
Thank you. I'm going to come at this from a little bit different point of view. I will do a little due diligence at the beginning and say that there was another coalition, small though it was, and the ones that Mr. Glover outlined. It was disgruntled Republicans, of which I'm one, and I'm proud to say that I voted in 2008 and 2012 for our current president. The angle I want to come at this from first or second. Already did the first, is I want to identify myself with the injustice that's been described here. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a soldier and a diplomat. But I think I understand the law well enough from my study of it and my reading of things like Supreme Court cases and so forth that I understand where they're coming from, and I understand that this was a grievous injustice on change of venue issues alone. Miami trying a Cuban American accused of what they were accused of, or even a Cuban accused of what they were accused of in Miami, would be like trying an Israeli Defense Force major in Tehran. It simply shouldn't have been done. And the other injustices that have been outlined very carefully here tonight add to that. But I want to take it from the angle that I'm most experienced in, and I want to take it from an angle that would back up the law, because frankly the law has failed for over a decade. And I'm not sure it's going to do any better in the next decade or the next. And I would really like to get these people out of jail. And so here's the way I would come at it. First, let's look at the foreign policy dimension of it and the security policy dimension. We are a pariah in Latin America right now. Latin America thinks the only thing we think about is Chavez in Venezuela and drugs in Colombia. That's it. Meanwhile, starting with Lula and now with Dilma Rousseff, Brazil is moving out to be the country of the Western Hemisphere of the future. Argentina's not too far behind, Chile's doing well, and they do not give a damn about us anymore. They wouldn't care at all if our residual, and I say residual, financial and economic power weren't still so great that they have to. President Obama was shocked when he went to the Summit of the Americas in Cartagena, when essentially every leader told him, you keep up your Cuba policy and we won't come to the next summit. Came back and fired his national security staffer. He should have fired a whole bunch of people. We need a new policy. We are the ones isolated in the Western Hemisphere, not Cuba. And one of the biggest problems in starting a better relationship with that island of 11.5 million souls, 90 miles off the coast of Florida, less people than we have in the greater metropolitan New York area, so you know now why Americans don't even know where it is. The best way to start would be to start with this problem. This problem would open so many doors. And what's it all about? If you boil it down, it's not unlike what happened during the Cold War repeatedly with the Soviet Union and the United States. We have people operating on our soil who are Russians, KGB, or what have you. We have people operating on Cuban soil who are CIA or other CIA-affiliated individuals. And they get captured, and we exchange. Maybe they spend a year or two in jail, and then we exchange them. Look at what we have here. We have people who, at a minimum, were in fact operating on U.S. soil in violation of U.S. law. And we have a person, Alan Gross, in case you haven't heard of him, most Americans haven't and don't give a damn, who was operating on Cuban soil clearly in violation of Cuban law, and probably doing as much or more than the Cuban Five have been accused of, at least with regard to Cuba law. So, what do? Isn't it simple? We release the Cuban Five, and they release Alan Gross. And the Cuban Five go back to Cuba and to their families, and Alan Gross comes back to his. This is so simple. This is so easy that I wish I were the diplomat in charge of it, and I wish I had carte blanche, because I think it'd take me about 24 hours. It is incredible that we haven't done something like this, but if you think about it in political terms, it's not unbelievable. However, and I'll end on this note, it will be utterly unbelievable for this American citizen if it doesn't happen in a second Obama administration and happen fast.